Is it recording? Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to IOTTT's Saturday night chat. The premise behind this initiative is that everything starts with the conversation. First of all, if there is an issue that we need to come and debate and discuss about it, and then that will give us more insights, better understanding of the topic of that issue, which will help us to take measures to how can we resolve that issue or what can we do about it. So that's the idea. Unfortunately, there were plenty of registrants today, but I think there was some network issue that preventing a lot of people to join today. But we hope they will join us soon. So without further ado, today's topic is how can we promote OT practice in India in areas other than pediatrics, or pretty much the idea is to how can we diversify our practice in terms of practice areas. The moderator for today's session is Ms. Nidhi Dave. She's currently, affiliated with Tata Memorial Hospital in Mumbai. Welcome, Nidhi, and please take over.
All right, sir. So, as explained by Karthik, sir, we'll be talking about how we can promote OT in diverse practice areas in India. So, we'll start with the burning question as to why is OT in India restricted to specific practice areas? We have the workforce study report, which very specifically we have evidence to point out that OT in India is restricted to specific practice areas of pediatrics and neurology to an extent. So, what is the reason that is preventing us, or what is the barrier to practice in other areas? Let's start by discussing on that.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful question. And again, I did this workforce study a couple of times in India, and we need to do one more. It's time for that now. But as per the latest one, it's like 72% of OTs are working in pediatrics, followed by neurology being the next big practice area. But there are some practice areas like geriatrics where just saw 1% of the respondents working in that area at all. So the reason I believe, this is my 2 cents, my opinion, is that I think that's where the reimbursements come in, like where it is also a cultural mindset of the people where they are willing to, they feel it's their responsibility to invest in their children's future. So anything for children, they are ready to pay out of pocket. So the reimbursement system itself is one issue, and the cultural perception is another issue, where people are willing to spend for their children. So there is more people willing to, pay for OT services in the area of pediatrics. So obviously the therapist, so that's where they have business, that's where they have money coming in, that's where they have patients willing to get OT services. So if you, again, and I always give this example when I talk about this topic to others, is like take a family, there is a elderly with a stroke or dementia and a child with some developmental disability, and they have some money to spend on recovery. Then even the elder person say, don't worry about me, I'm already, like, I lived my life, I'm in the tail end of my life, don't invest on me, it's a waste of money, go ahead and, like, do the good care, like put the child on tuition, take the child for OT. So even like if they have resources, their priority is for the children. Even if it's an affluent community or affluent family, the same thing happens. Again, their mindset is anything investing on the tail end of the life is not going to give them back a lot, and it's like I'm already there. But again, the concept of quality of life, well-being, all those things also need to be considered. So the cultural perception, lack of awareness, the reimbursement system, say for example, if insurances start reimbursing OT services, then obviously if someone else is paying for and I'm getting benefit out of it, and then say, yeah, if insurance covers this services, why not, right? Why not? Then I think there'll be more people coming forward to get this, number one. And also they really need to understand that we have a role in other areas. There is this myth in India that if you really go to a general public audience, like go to a mall and like gather 10 people and ask them, like if at all they know OT, they will say, oh yeah, you work with kids. You know what I mean? They associate ourselves with more like a pediatric professional rather than a rehab professional, or health and well-being healthcare professional. So that's what, in my view, is kind of like preventing us from, or like that's what encouraging us to gravitate towards one practice area compared to other areas.
Yes, I completely agree with you, sir. I'll also invite the other participants to put forth their views.
The
I
momentum I saw
see
someone joining.
Kiruba here.
Yeah, Kriba, let's go ahead
Yeah,
with Kriba now. But I saw one person joining. Probably she might join again.
so this the reason for it to be restricted to pediatrics and neurology is, I would say, it starts from the university itself, because we give postings more, or like we teach, and probably the teachers are more experienced in like pediatrics and neuro. It is considered as I would say, like even when they take master's degree, a person who chooses pediatrics or neuro are considered like they have like a better one than the other ones, because of basically we don't have staff support to teach the other areas, or to actually like support tell the students that there are like variety of options available. So only when they go to the final year and every or even in masters, they tend to understand that OT is not restricted to two or three areas, but then to a large areas. So I feel like people students are interested, at least the upcoming students they are passionate about OT. And I recently spoke to one of the students, and she said, I want to go and start working in NICU. So they are willing to, they are even willing to create their own path and then start something. But I feel we educators, and also there's awareness that's very less, and there is again how would I say it, like if you take pediatric or neuro, that's something that matters. Basically, it's all related to, uh, as sir said, the money, the monetary benefits that we get by choosing it. However, even behind that, like even if they are interested in any other field, it's some kind of value that's put up more on neuro. That like if you study neuro, you're like brainy and stuff, all of those things. And that's one thing that's restricting to pediatrics and neuro, because we are more visible in those two areas. But I feel there are many chances, there are many openings coming up in mental health, and many of them are like joining, and the doctors and also the uh, are like rehab team. They understood the value of OT, and they are actually looking for more people in mental health. So I see that area is growing, but I'm not sure. Maybe like we need to conduct a different workforce survey to understand if that's growing or not. Uh, yeah, I think it's growing, but it's starts from the education level itself, that like people are not seeing the other areas as like a practice that's worth trying.
So Dimple is here if you want to throw the same question to her and get her thoughts.
Yes, Dimple, your thoughts on why is OT in India restricted to like specific areas of practice, or as the evidence points out, in the direction of pediatrics, and second comes neuro.
Yeah, hi. Uh, I think you're right because maybe it's from our colleges. We started like when we practice in our, bachelor's and in our master's, we usually focus on pediatric and neurology conditions, uh, and most of the areas are overlapped with the physiotherapist, like in orthopedics and so maybe some people avoid going into overlapped areas, and because PTs are not much involved in pediatric, so that's the reason maybe.
Yeah, interesting perspectives shared by Kriba and Dimple. I mean, I cannot agree more. Of course, if the more postings, more familiarity with those practice areas, then they feel like they know more in that area, then they will more inclined to engage in that practice, right? Yes,
Mhm.
very good perspectives.
So yes, as Kiruba was saying, basically my background is more of a mental health background. So I also heard a lot of students from my college saying that, ma'am, we were not aware that we have such a lot of role to play in mental health. So exposure to different kinds of settings rather than the like the traditional settings of, let's say, a hospital unit or very specific areas of postings. If students are exposed to a variety of settings, community-based postings and things like that, definitely it will enrich their experience and also make them understand that yes, we have a broader role in the other areas as well.
True.
True, I agree with you, Nidhi.
Simply. So. Moving on to the next point of discussion, we know that we are being saturated in certain areas of practice, and it is imperative, but still we would like to gather perspectives on why is it important to diversify into other practice areas.
Okay, so I'll get started on this one as well. So why is it important? It's basically like we are a profession who really wants to, advocate for occupational justice of the population, right? And we are a profession who treats a baby in the NICU all the way to an older person in hospice. So we deal with this with the whole life spectrum. So our focus is obviously if there is any injury, disease, or disability that affects a person's occupation, like the day-to-day occupations, then obviously we have a role there, right? So my point is when we have this wonderful professional philosophy and a lot of skill set, and of course we all like, are we taking only pediatric courses? No, we are like, doing this 4.5 years course plus those who did masters have additional years of education. So we have all this wealth of knowledge, and there is this people with like India's capital, diabetic capital, right? We have lots and lots of people with diabetes, and diabetes of course is a metabolic disorder. We are not directly dealing with it, but diabetes comes with its secondary complications: diabetic neuropathy, diabetic nephropathy, retinopathy, low vision, all these things. So my point is, we have this wealth of knowledge. There is this community with huge need of these services, and why we should. I think it is our responsibility to really utilize that skill set to for the benefit of the community, and that is the first reason we should diversify our practice areas. So we need to educate the community in terms of what we can offer for patients with diabetes, patients with dementia, mental health. Again, there is a lot of mental health conditions in India that are very prevalent. If you really look at some of the statistics, it's staggering. So we have so much of a need in those areas where the stakeholders, including some healthcare professionals, do not know what to do with them. But we may very well have a solution for some of the issues they are dealing with. But the disconnect is the lack of awareness. Those professionals do not know that we have a role, and our people do not really have an in-depth knowledge in certain areas of practice itself or deviating from it. So I think we need to like put it in this way. We need to see this like what is the problem there and how can we provide a solution to that problem. And then like we need to just kind of expose ourselves and say, hey, this is what going on with you, like this is what, we can use these type of techniques to address these type of issues. We have the skill set. So we need to, first of all, we need to empower ourselves, and then like start communicating, like publishing case studies, providing different perspectives on all these cases. Then what can an OT do with this type of a case? So we need to put our word out there to educate the stakeholders. Then, oh yeah, I mean, this is what I'm dealing with for a long time, let me come to you. So I think that's where we need to phrase. But to answer your, I mean, I do not want to go ahead in the discussion. Probably may have more items to discuss on what we can do about it. But for now, I think for this item, I would say, this question, I would say it is our responsibility to diversify our practice areas.
Yes, absolutely, sir. So, for the better good of the community that we serve and we are answerable to, it only makes sense that we broaden our areas of practice so that we are accessible to the people who will benefit from our services.
True, true. Then what is the purpose of all this education and knowledge gathering, right? So we are here to, we chose healthcare professionals are carried for a reason. We want to serve people. We want to help people. We want to empower people. We want to give them good health and quality of life and well-being. And on one side, we gather all this massive knowledge and then like kind of restricted to one practice area and then ignoring the huge need in other areas. I think it is, from a professionalism perspective, it is more our responsibility too, to make ourselves more visible and tell people what we do. Welcome,
And
Suresh.
and I and I believe that this should be started from educating students and OT professionals first, because even in our professionals, like OT professionals, do not have such kind of knowledge that we have this kind of broader, aspect of OT where we can practice. So it starts within the profession first, and then only we can involve stakeholders and others. And, you know, so I think this is the most important part of improving OT education.
I agree, Dimple. And that adding on to what you said, maybe if we as OT professionals are able to realize that yes, we will get a larger clientele if we diversify our areas of practice, then it will also make sense, and it will also enable OTs to take up practice in different areas. Let's say we have a role, we are providing those services, and we have takers for our services. Definitely, the revenue is going to flow and we are going to be reimbursed. So that will again help us to sustain our practices in the long run.
Hmm. Right.
Yes, Suresh sir has just joined in. Sir, your views on why OT in India is restricted to areas like pediatrics and neurology. We just had all the other participants contributing to their points of view.
Thank you, Nidhi. Hello, all. I'm sorry I'm late, but that's the only possible time for me to join. I definitely didn't want to miss the conversation. Thanks for the question as well. Uh, I feel from my experience, when we teach the students occupational therapy, we don't go beyond pediatrics and neurology. At the max, we talk to them about orthopedics, and these are the three large areas that's there in any colleges that teach occupational therapy, and patient flow is also only related to it. Um, One key area that's been internationally very well spoken within occupational therapy curriculum is public health. In India, we don't know it, and we sometimes segregate ourselves from saying we are not into public health at all. So it's highly questionable and debatable in a context like India. Whereas if you think in the context of UK, where I currently teach, public OT in public health itself is a part of the curriculum. And whenever there is a national conference or say state level student conferences, students from this particular aspect, so students who are in the module when they are learning occupational therapy in public health, their posters and their research is the one that has been kind of getting into all the conference papers and talks and everything. So I think the exposure to other areas to diversify than pediatrics, neurology, and orthopedics. If it is there right from the beginning of the curriculum, then that would enable us to kind of learn and then get into those practice areas. The other aspect is the opportunities that we have. So even if, say, for example, all the colleges in India talk about occupational therapy in public health, and only that specific area I'm talking about. I'm not talking about anything else because public health has become very needed rather than popular. And there are lots of people who has the capacity for contributing to public health. Especially occupational therapists, even if they are taught in their curriculum, say for a year, when they move out, they don't actually have the opportunity to practice as public health professionals. They can be practicing as clinicians, and they might have a knowledge of how they can improve themselves as an occupational therapist with public health expertise. However, if you look at the opportunities available either from the government sector or from other sector, it's very negligible. It's only you who have to explore those options and then go find that opportunities and kind of get involved into it. Even if you get involved into it in those scenarios, the last bit is the amount of satisfaction that you might have in those areas. Say somebody who I know, they are into assistive technology. They are working in big institutions like Indian Institute of Technology and Indian Institute of Science, occupational therapists by training. However, they are still occupational therapists. They are not given that opportunity to contribute to, say, assistive technology on the whole. Whereas if you look at the GATE technology or the global assistive technologies work towards assistive technology, the measurement of the assistive technology is done by an occupational therapist, but from US. US working in the UK on that particular project. So we don't really get that opportunity. So one is teaching diversified areas in occupational therapy. Two is looking for an opportunity. It's it's a challenge actually to get into those kinds of opportunities. Three, even if you get that opportunity, kind of contributing to that area and then building your career, building your knowledge, and kind of making your your what can I say, inputs for the development of the profession within our country, it's it's um, it's still a myth. That's how I would put it.
All right, sir. We see Muralikrishnan sir is here. Sir, your views on this question as to why OT in India is restricted to specific areas of practice. Murli sir,
Nidhi,
are you there? Yes, yes, sir.
yes, Nidhi, just give me a minute. I'm just settling
Sure.
something and just give me. Sorry.
I think
So
I'll take it.
until then,
Oh, sorry. Go on, Nidhi. Sorry.
yes, Kirba, please share your views on why it is important to diversify practice areas. The second question that we were discussing.
We were discussing, yeah. So first and foremost, that we don't want to shrink OT just to pediatrics and neuro, as Karthik sir was initially saying. When you ask somebody, oh, you work with children, you work with kids with autism, and I was like, oh yeah, but we have other areas that we work with as well. So we don't want it to be stigmatized as like, oh, OTs work with these two populations. So we don't want that. So on the longer run, we will, if we don't fight for it, we will be pushed only to those areas, and then the other uh, members might take advantage of it and like start shining in the other areas. Um, and we need to insist on the interdisciplinary and then multidisciplinary practice and start uh, hearing other people's input. That's another thing. And also, as I was saying, we need to improve the quality of life of general population and of everyone. So in India, again, due to the cultural values that we place, quality of life is not completely taken into considerations. Most of the time, we are like, it's fine. It's not a big deal. But the amount of quality of the amount of interest or value that they place on quality of life in these developed countries is massive. Even when I came here and somebody was like, you're not comfortable, I was like, no, I'm fine. But then they were not ready because they know like how a different share would make me comfortable, or like because they were used to it. But we were our cultural values are basically like different, and we need to promote the quality of life, and thereby um, as said, like, even in geriatrics, it's important that a person should live their life to the fullest, even at the point of death, and not just say, like, I'm old and I don't need anything. So, that as an OT, we need to promote a lot. And I would second, or I would support what Suresh was saying. OT is not restricted to just to one person. So, even OTPF stays, OT is or we treat client as person, population, and group. We don't just like stick to one. Our client is not somebody as a person. We have group and population as well. So we need to start teaching those to our students, and because OT as a whole is a way of living, and we need to start telling our students and our people that we need to insist that to them. So that's one of the main reasons that we need to diversify.
I agree with you, Kirba. Dimple, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think they've covered all the points why we actually need to diversify this profession. And as when I came here in Canada with you know doing my PhD. So I'm also recognizing this, that our curriculum is very restricted to specific, medical conditions. Not even we are focusing on occupational therapy specifically. So this is another reason people, like students, even don't know about much about occupational therapy in different areas of practice. So I think this I can add this to, yeah.
So, like just to piggyback on Kriba's point about the quality of life, when like recently I reviewed this NFHS survey conducted by government of India, and like some of the statistics were really staggering. Like there's a lot of human suffering in India that can be mitigated, and like a lot of them do not know that there is a better way of living a life or leading a life. So, again, tagging along Suresh's point of view, yeah, public health, there is a massive need. Uh, uh, definitely we can improve a lot of lives by associating with, working in the area of public health. Let me put it that way. So yes, like there are still the literacy rate, the percentage of school dropouts, and their occupations, their living style. Again, we don't really like everything can be improved in a very reasonable manner. But I think the stakeholders need to come together, and the people with skill set should be given the opportunity to do it. And that's where I think the issue lies, in my view. Right. Let's move on to the
Yes.
next. Oh, you want to get Murali's thought? Murali, are you ready to contribute, or you still need more time?
Yeah, I'm good now. See, this diversification, I'm looking at it in a little bit of different way. As a profession, yes, serving others and then helping the humanity is also one part. But again, if the profession needs to survive, we need to be in a position where our service is needed in all the areas where we could help the humanity in a different areas, not just one, which is basically the pediatrics nowadays or the mental health otherwise. Uh, if people need to know they have to use an occupational therapist in different areas, then we should be the ones who have to do the self advocacy and say we should be able to provide this kind of services, or we are qualified or equipped to help people in diversified areas. So wherever we get the opportunity, let's plant ourselves in and then self advocate ourselves. So it becomes an easy people. Most of the times, people who do not recommend OT or who do not suggest OT is because they have no idea how an OT can help in this matter. So putting ourselves in front would probably solve that issue for us. And at the same time, even the students, when they are coming, most of the times they are going only into a pediatric clinic. That's what they are learning. So once you are trained in that, once you are learning in that particular aspect, that's what you will go and practice it for. If they have a chance to do, now I do a bit of psychiatry and adult neuro as well. So when I do that, people are learning the factor that no, this is where I can work also, and where I am working and how I am going to work. So how do I keep myself in relevant to that particular therapy or particular treatment is where my importance as an occupational therapist in the field of rehabilitation in diversified fields comes into the picture. So that's what we need to focus. And as a seniors, when we want to work, let's train the students as interns in other areas as well, not just in one area. And we also need to step out of our comfort zone, which is like, this is what is making me money. Let's put some effort or some time other than the comfort zone and go ahead.
Absolutely, sir. I see Suresh sir has raised his hand and followed by Karthik sir. So yes, please.
Thanks, Nidhi. So primarily what I wanted to say is there is a low-hanging fruit here when we look at diversifying practice, okay? Only when we understand practice from other parameters. Practice doesn't mean clinical practice of looking at a person with disability requiring OT service. But practice also can be defined as practicing teaching occupational therapy, just like what me and Karthik do. Kripa was doing that some time back, and Dimple was also doing that some time back. So it is also diversifying and ensuring that anybody who finishes occupational therapy directly cannot become assistant professors, for example. Okay, there has to be a journey in terms of that particular person understanding what is higher education, and then preparing themselves to contribute to that particular module or a complete subject. Or somebody cannot just say, I have 20 years of experience in occupational therapy, so I'm the dean of a college. You cannot say that. You need competencies for teaching separately. Similarly, if you're looking at research, that has got huge potential for occupational therapists, particularly in a country like India, where we have to understand how we can become occupational therapy researchers. I'm not asking you to become a hardcore researcher. Become a researcher in occupational therapy and ensure that we have these three groups as well. Practitioners are there, researchers are there to generate evidence, teachers are there to train people to generate evidence, and then we have practitioners to implement that evidence in real life practice. So that is also another area which is a low hanging fruit. You have researchers in India, you have practitioners who teach in India, and you also have practitioners in India. So when you define practice as something that can be relevant to OT research, OT academics or teaching, then that is a low hanging fruit which you can easily tap and then build the capacity and widen the areas of practice.
Uh, I just want to contribute to what Murali said. Basically, yeah, I mean, like I think I mentioned this in the beginning of the call that we need to really advocate for ourselves. That's there. But then I just want to give a real life example. Like in 2009-10 time frame, when I had my private practice, I started writing this monthly articles in a Tamil journal type of book, like a magazine, monthly magazine. So in one of that, I wrote about our role in cardiorespiratory rehabilitation. And then what I typically do is when I get the copy of the book, I Xerox those pages of my article and put it on my notice board in the waiting area for the parents to read. And so then again, that's when there was this family who came to me for their, for the intervention for the kid. And then while I was treating, and then at the end of the session, when I sent the kid back, they asked, "Oh, I just read this. It was very interesting." And then they said, "Can I have a consultation with you?" And then I ended up treating them with cardiopulmonary rehab techniques for a few sessions. Like I did a evaluation and consultation, and then taught them some techniques and stuff. So that gave me an opportunity because we made it known. I mean, there was nothing like the patient, the moment they read and understand, they know it was in Tamil language, so they were able to digest the information that I wrote, and then immediately they were able to ask for me. And similarly, I was associated with psychiatrist Dr. Anbudurai, who was my favorite, one of my very favorite persons in this world. I associated with him, so I worked in mental health. I was affiliated with the NGO. So there is opportunities, but I think we need to explore and tap, and whenever we get an opportunity, we need to seize them. And we need to continue to advocate for ourselves. I mean, there is no second guess about it. That's why I just want to give you the real life example of what happened. Thank you.
Yes, sir, absolutely. So advocacy both within the profession, at the curricular level, and among the general public, all of this is required. That is what I gather from all the discussion that we have been doing. And as it was pointed out, there is a need for practice. As practitioners, we need to be researchers as well. So when we're going to be creating evidence, that evidence itself is going to be a very good medium through which we can advocate, at least in the professional world. And as you said, sir, when we are going to be doing advocacy at the public level, when we connect to the people in the vernacular language, when we work at the grassroots level, absolutely people are going to understand, okay, this person can offer me these services. So that is one way in which we can encourage or we can diversify our practice areas. I see that Pooja ma'am has joined in. Hello, ma'am. So we were discussing on why is OT restricted to certain areas of practice and why it is important to diversify. So your thoughts on these? Pooja ma'am, can you hear us? Are you there?
Hello.
Hi,
Yes,
Pooja.
please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So can you repeat the question?
The questions that we have discussed so far are why OT in India is restricted to specific areas of practice and what is the need or why is there a need to diversify into other areas of practice?
So there are basically multiple reasons for the same, is what I believe, because when we look at the practice, OT practice in India, it's like 80 to 90% is pediatric, where remaining 10% is diversified into adult practice, and in adult practice into ortho, neuro, etc. or hand. So when we look at this scenario, this is because of the existing, other professionals which have gained hold. When we look in terms of physiotherapy or other areas where adult practice is more. Okay, so as a result, pediatric practice in India is more. So when we look at the profession, that's one. Second is the culture or our Indian culture. So in adult practice, like we have joint family system. So when there is a joint family, everybody is ready to pitch in to help the person to get back on the feet. So when we look trying to gain independence for the adult in occupational therapy sessions, or when we look at OBI or occupation based intervention OT, that's not something that becomes a priority because the whole family is ready to take over that function. So why OT is required, something like that. So that importance is gradually increasing because of the change in the family structure or the social construct in India. That is, we are moving from joint to nuclear, and also the importance of everybody being independent financially, physically, socially, emotionally has become much more. And as a result, again, now so mental health in OT has been gaining. Uh, so this is a slow change that over the time will happen, and that will itself lead to diversification. But we have to capitalize on it. I mean, the change in the society needs to be capitalized on by therapists. So this too. Then you look at the our paying system or the reimbursement system that we have in India. So it is out of pocket. Now every parent is ready to pay for a child, but parent is not ready to pay for self. So suppose that parent is having a fracture in the leg and has to get back, is like per session I need to pay this much is like a huge amount for a parent. But when you have to pay for the child, it seems okay. So that uh, you know doing for child thing, that emotional aspect is also something that is one of the reason why pediatric practice is at the 80% and the adult practice is not. So those three. Then when you and also when you look at reimbursement system, or those who have insurances, you have it for autism, you have it for certain syndromes, but you don't have it for adult. It is only physiotherapy sessions that are reimbursed. So when you look in that practice as well, so OTK sessions for adult is not reimbursed. So if that is not happening, then why would somebody, they would in fact prefer to go to a physiotherapy, even though the OT role is there, because वो reimburse हो रहा है. You get the point. So that is the other reason. Then when you look at government and private sector system of rehabilitation in India, so private sector is more in terms of pediatric practice, while government sector is equal into pediatric, but there is too much of emphasis over adult practice, because वहाँ पे there is no pay out of pocket system. Government is free. I mean, at least in Mumbai, the BMC hospitals and government hospitals have free rehab centers. Our department doesn't charge anything for that. So splints hai, therapy exercises, regular sessions. So even the adults are going there for the cost effectiveness of the therapy. So that is also a reason why government in hospital practice or government sector side or NGO side, the adult sector is much more in comparison to the private sector. Then you look
I
at the
agree with
referral
you,
system.
Pooja ma'am. Yes. Yes, ma'am. So since we are running a bit short on time, we will talk more about what do we do to exactly encourage OTs and support OTs so that we can diversify into other practice areas. I'm sure we have discussed a lot of points as to advocacy and other things, but a quick bit on what all are the strategies that we can implement or what can we do to encourage and support OTs Pooja ma'am, you can continue on this and then we'll move on to the rest of the participants.
uh, Always we should ideally start from a grassroots level, that is our education system, OT education system, where we need to even have lots of PG seats for the other neuro ortho, plus the ones who are specializing in a given sector, say in a neuro ortho, needs to, kind of like how we have in a medical system, those who have done specialization or MD in neuro practices neurology. However, in our occupational therapy profession, it's not the same. Even the ones who have done masters in ortho are doing few courses in neurodevelopmental disorder or some SI course or any other course and then practicing into the field. It's because our basic eligibility of practice is BOTH in India. However, when we look abroad or other countries, there the eligibility criteria is masters and they have their own credit hour system, etc., which Karthik sir would be able to, put more light on the difference. But because of that difference, the practice over there is not solely related to pediatrics. It's much more diversified in all the sectors, because if you have done hand therapy, you are practicing hand therapy. If you have done ortho as your master's, you're practicing ortho in the practice or in the practice professional life. But here it's not the same. So maybe that should change. One. So that should come from the education system. That should come from the basic, that those who are interested in a given sector should practice in a given sector, etc. So that is one. Second, this super speciality of a therapist working in a sole area, say only in pediatrics or only in autism or only in certain, that is a double-edged sword. I mean, it restricts the diversification, but the quality of practice will definitely increase, and the professional identity also becomes better with that. But then those kind of super specialty kind of courses should come into course, or people should enroll into it more. So those areas can be in further, plus those areas need to be researched that well, because many of times, even if I want to practice in a given sector, if I have, I mean, there is not much research to back me up, or there is, I mean, you don't feel confident into going into that area if there is not much research available. At least, I mean, that gives you a certain thing to back on when you are going in that particular field to practice. So research also
Absolutely,
needs
Pooja
to
ma'am.
look
So sometime back,
certain
Suresh
things.
sir had just emphasized on how we need to diversify as researchers as well, so that we can create evidence for practice. So yes, ma'am, definitely your thoughts on diversifying or creating more
Yes,
opportunities for PGs to learn into different areas, creating more number of seats. Yes, that is definitely right. Moving on to Kiruba, what are your thoughts on this, Kiruba?
Hi, yeah. I would start with what Pooja ma'am said. We need change in educational institutions basically. So educational institutes should start incorporating all this in their syllabus, and also like start sending the students to different placements, and to collaborate with other institutions basically, to, for example, like as part of the final year or during internship, they can send to any geriatric institutions. They can send to any mental health placements rather than focusing only on, like, few settings. So they can start with that, and then even for placements, it, we say educational systems or even the IOTA or like any national body should start uh, taking actions to in all these areas and support people basically, to for, yeah, educational institutions can ask them to come for placements, tell the importance of OT in different settings, and place their students in those in those organizations. That would be one good way to spread OT in different areas. And I would say I would go with what Murli sir said, self-advocacy. And as I said, I speak to a lot of students still, and show they don't want to go with what others will do. Like they don't want to just like start practicing in pediatrics or neuro. They are just looking for other options to establish themselves. So when they do it, I think we need a supervision system, or we need a senior OT to back them up, and then like provide that opportunity and support to flourish in that area that they want to do. And when I think about all of these things, I finally end up with saying like unity among the OTs. So when you see one institution going and doing something, or when somebody is doing something new in OT pathway, you need to celebrate it, or you need to embrace it rather than seeing it as a competition. That's one of the main reasons that we, as I don't want to say that, but like yeah, as Indians lack, because we compete with our fellow professionals, and then we look for our name to come up, and we suppress the name of OT. So when somebody is like exploring new options, or doing something like that, I feel as a national body, or as different institutions, we need to support each other, and then like provide those opportunities for the younger generations coming up.
Absolutely, Kiruba. And as you said, although there are placements, we need to also ensure that there are available OTs who have expertise in that area. For example, I've seen in my personal experience in quite a few NGOs, the students are posted. They go there, they work, they actually like the work they do, they learn a lot, but they do not have adequate supervision. They do not have someone to adequately guide them as to what they're doing right, what they can improve on, and things like that. So yes, supervision in the niche areas is definitely also one way through which students will benefit more from those postings and gain a better
I feel we don't talk about all of these things in the different WhatsApp groups. You see all the WhatsApp groups, they post job opportunities, but they don't discuss about all these uh, maybe like I need help in these things. Can somebody like send me something? You send that. People send you books. I understand books are important and articles, but open conversation of what to do in a channel, in different channels, that doesn't happen. And I feel like when you have proper supervisions or anything like that as support, that will help the younger generations who are like wanting to go in different paths. That will definitely help.
definitely. And you also spoke about the professional competition that we have. I mean, it's okay to have healthy competition, but not that we shouldn't we should not put down others. That's what I basically mean. We should all collectively stand up and rise for our profession.
Exactly, exactly.
Yes, Karthik sir and Murli sir, your views on what are all the strategies to encourage and diversify practice?
So I will go first. In addition to what's been
Yes.
said, I just kind of really approach this question from more actionable items, okay? Because like, of course, we need to advocate, we need to do, but then exactly what can we do? Again, these are my 2 cents. There could be like 100 things that we could do, but I'm just going to like kind of like highlight the 6 that I believe should be the action items to start diversifying in that direction. The first is internship. Kripa emphasized it. At least like 6 months of internship, one should be in an emerging setting in this type of a practice area. So that is a great opportunity. They are still in the student phase. That is an opportunity to create awareness on the other side as well. If they're going to an emerging setting, they are showing them the role of OT in the type of a setting. So that is the first step. So the second thing is associate with a the non-governmental organization, be it a religious organization, be it something. First of all, like look at what the marketing people does. The product marketing, they give a sample, right? They give a sample sachet to you. Similarly, you need to really like in order to help the stakeholders, the consumers understand the benefit of our product, benefit of our service, we need to first give them a little bit of sample. So my advice would be like, if you're already running a busy practice, good, you're having this private pediatrics or whatever the practice area, but you want to diversify your clinic in your business, like you already have this big practice, you're making good money, then maybe like once in a week, like try to partner with this religious entity and then like do a free back pain group, like 6-week back pain group, or caregivers education group, like where people who are caring for their family member with dementia can come and join. So first give them, and then once they realize the benefit of it, then convert to a like one other additional service that you can provide in your business. So we need to just kind of do something to help them understand the benefit of the OT services in other areas. Then people will start like, once they realize the value, the benefit they get out of it, then they say, yeah, it's worth it. It's worth investing the money to go for this session, learn about body mechanics, learn about energy conservation, learn about all these wonderful, the adaptations and assistive technology stuff that the OT can offer. And it makes a big difference in my life after I learned that. So first of all, they need to understand. Number three, talk in vernacular language. It's, I cannot emphasize this. Language is, India is such a diverse country. I enjoy the diversity. I value the diversity. At the same time, its presence is a challenge when it really comes to communicating this information, because the cultural attitude, perception, everything is embedded to the vernacular language as well a little bit. So if you start communicating, so you need to write articles in local magazines in Telugu, Tamil, Malayalam, Hindi, all languages, Punjabi, Marathi, I can go on and on. So we need to really do that. So definitely that local niche will have their own local newspapers or magazines. That should be our target, where we write in layman language to talk about what we can do. And then, of course, present in other conferences, like in addition to the OT conference, take your study about pediatrics and go to a pediatric conference. Take your study about orthopedics and then go to the orthopedicians conference and like climb a spot and then like present it. So that way you are educating the stakeholders about what you can do in that area where it's their specialty. So you can really tell them what I can offer you in your specialty. So that will promote more referrals and that would encourage more, diversifying practice. And also publish case studies. Case studies is such an educational material, such an informative material, and that will also eliminate the issues with the context of practice. If a OT in India reads a case study from US, they cannot really apply what they learn. But if there's a case study that comes out of India, then the context is pretty close or similar, where they can literally apply what they learn from the case study and then like learn what to do with the case if they get one. And finally, the entities like national bodies like Indian OT, Otis think tank, etc. We need to like publish position papers. We need to tell them like what is our role in this area. So there should be an official position paper that's available for any stakeholder to access and refer to. So we need to tell them what we can offer in this area, OT's role in pediatrics, OT's role in neurology, OT's role in mental health, OT's role. So there are position papers available in Western countries, Western part of the world, but we need to have like an Indian version, and that too in multiple languages. Translated and validated in different languages as well. So these are, I mean, there are more, but let me stop it here. These are some actionable items that we could do to diversify the practice. Thank you.
Absolutely, sir. Murli, sir, your thoughts on this?
Murli, can you hear us?
Hi, Karthik. Yes.
Yeah.
No, see, I was thinking the same thing when it comes to promoting it or what we need to do. Other than the position statements, as you know, people who are in the field will definitely watch out for, and they will read it and then go. And we also need to find a way to instill this in the student life itself, where the interest factor has to be more planted strongly as a passionate material. They'll follow it when there is, usually we have these guides and role models in our own profession, so we follow them for that particular quality of them. So we need to guide them, and then we need to mentor them even after the UG, even after their graduation or college days. We need to continue that mentoring to certain extent, where everybody gets that specialization.
All right.
Agreed, sir. And Karthik, sir, adding on to what you said, I had actually observed this. We did like this parent group for all the mothers of the children who used to attend the group sessions on every Saturday. So what used to happen is it used to be more like a support group. And then from that support group, I could actually see mothers opening up, coming for individual therapy sessions. So yes, definitely giving them a taste of what we do is going to help them realize, okay, this person is going to be able to help me with these issues. Let me go to them. They're going to actually sort the issues that I have. So
True.
all your actionable items are things which we can implement, doable things. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like one thing that I really want to emphasize here is like one person or one entity cannot change the entire thing. multiple things need to happen at the local level. Multiple people need to take small steps in order to diversify the practice. That's how the change can happen. So again, in some part, and also we also need to acknowledge the limitations of the data we have, because there may be wonderful things that OTs are already doing in different parts of India that we do not know, because we are very weak in data gathering, data collection, and data handling. So we really need to gather the data. People should be willing to respond to the surveys, providing that information, so that then we have the wealth of data. So my point is, there may be plenty of OTs working in other areas or in geriatrics that are not responded to the workforce study. Then we do not know the data, right? So that is another reason. So there are multiple issues that we need to tackle. But my point is, the change will only happen when multiple minds, multiple people take small steps in multiple parts, in multiple areas, research, clinical practice, education, everything. But wonderful discussion. Do you have any other questions, or can we wrap it up? It's almost we are hitting the 1 hour mark.
Yes, we did have a very fruitful discussion, although there were limited people among who joined this. But yes, definitely we had a very fruitful discussion, and I'm sure people watching this later will also benefit from the points that we discussed. And wrapping it all up, I think professional unity, as you had pointed out, and as Kirba also pointed out, professional unity is the need of the hour, and we need to make sure that we are having a competition among ourselves, healthy competition, but at the same time rising up for the cause of our profession.
True. So shall we wrap it up then? Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. And once again, on behalf of IOTTT, I sincerely thank each and every one of you who participated and contributed to the discussion. This recording will be shared on our YouTube channel. Please share it, and also those who are unable to attend, can listen to it and then comment their views in the comment thread. So again, this is just a starting of this discussion. We need to continue this conversation, through chats, and if you have any wonderful thoughts and ideas that you want to communicate to the IOTT, you can email us. You can go to our website. There is a form through which you can contact us as well. So I really appreciate everyone who participated today, and also I'm going to thank in advance of the people who are going to contribute to this topic in this thread in the future. Thank you once again. Wherever you are, enjoy the rest of your day. Until we see you in the next 7-minute chat. Bye bye.